welcome to the Hank Cisco Show, ladies and gentlemen. Don't touch that dial. Got a good show here today. We're going to talk to a man that produces videos, movies, just about everything, okay? And it's just been, I bumped into him. I said, how did I get to meet him? It's interesting how we met and some of the people that he introduced me to. And I just want you to stick around, okay? And you'll learn something about the whole area and what this man has to offer to the whole community. Okay, so my guest is Rick Morris. I guess you call him movie producer, director, writer, the whole bit, okay? So welcome to the Hank Cisco Show.
Pleasure to be here, Hank.
All right, now, I give you a big build-up, okay? Now, you're going to put all that stuff together, okay?
Made me an all-around Renaissance man.
All right. You're the head of the Fleet Walker Productions, okay? What is that?
Fleet Walker Productions is a video production and film and entertainment production company, and we do corporate videos for Fortune 500 companies all the way down to startup emerging companies. Work all over the Philadelphia area and all over the country.
And okay, now where'd that word come from? What you name
Fleet
it?
Walker?
The Walker, Fleet Walker. Where'd you get a name like that? What's
Fleet Walker? Well, there's a slight misconception in history. Most people believe that Jackie Robinson was the first man to integrate the major leagues, when in fact Fleet Walker played in the major leagues. He was a black man.
Oh, that's a guy's name.
It is a man's name, and
Fleet
he was
Walker.
A legendary pioneer. He was the first black. He played in 42 games in the major leagues in 1884. And he's generally recognized as the first black to play in the major leagues. And then they redrew the color line in the 1890s, and then no blacks played again until Robinson in 1947.
Oh, all right. Now that shirt. Let me see that shirt you got. What is it?
The Homestead
Grays.
Grays. The Homestead Grays, yes, out of...
Where were they? Out of where?
Homestead Grays are out of Pittsburgh. Homestead is a section of Pittsburgh.
We had John Doyle had a show here about up around Carlisle or someplace up there with the very early ages of baseball. I forget the name of it, but that's a lot of his. Tell me about this team.
Well, Homestead Grays and the Pittsburgh Crawfords were two of the big teams in the Negro Leagues, both based in Pittsburgh. And Satchel Paige, Josh Gibson, and many of the legends of the Negro Leagues played out there. And you know, the Negro Leagues were an active, vibrant, the second biggest business in the black community before baseball co-opted them and took over. The Negro Leagues basically were put out of business with integration when black fans started going to major league games. When Jackie crossed over, and they were out of business in a few years.
Sit up in the stands, way up in the bleachers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of I don't know what you want to call it, but it was not good. Now, who would they play? Like, was it inner cities or?
Well, they tour all over the country. The Kansas City Monarchs, Chicago Americans.
Oh, in other words, they traveled. Oh, okay.
1920 was the first Negro League was established, first successful Negro League, I should say, and that was right on through the 1950s. So they would play against teams of their own league all over the country. As a matter of fact, the Hilldale Daisies were a team here in around 1924. They played the Kansas City Monarchs in the very first.
The Monarchs, yeah.
It was Satchel Paige's team for many years.
What are Monarchs? Is that a bird?
It's a butterfly.
I think
when
it is a butterfly. Yeah, because I remember there was a baseball team in Northtown, the Monarchs, but I don't know if it was.
Then also the crown, the royalty. I picture so the monarch and royalty. The monarchs are ruling something over there in European countries. So. But the Hilldale Daisies, they played in the first Negro League World Championship, and they're right out of Upper Darby. And then the second year, they won the championship.
Did you make a production or movie about this? Or?
I did indeed. I did a movie called Closed Doors, the Integration of Baseball, and it traces the integration story from 1880s all the way up through 1950.
Well, now where's it shown? Do you have it for sale, or what do you do?
Never cleared all the rights to everything, and never actually. Never took it to market, but I do have it available, and if anyone wanted a copy, I'd be glad to send them one.
Well, I like to have a copy of it.
Hank, you're going to get the first one. Just
now,
send me an email, Rick@FleetWalker, and I will.
Let me tell you, you talk about Afro-American, how we met, and a lady that you introduced me to, or well, he introduced you or whatever, whoever, and she sang on the St. Patrick's show. And she told me, I asked her her name. She told me her real name. Okay?
Evelyn Thomas.
Right, Evelyn Thomas. She says, but I live in Upper Merion. And Upper Merion is actually King of Prussia. So King of Prussia has a king, but it don't have a queen. And I am the queen. Well, that just got me. I said, can you sing? She says, yes, I can sing. Can you sing an Irish song? She says, yes. And she sang some band or some whatever. And I put her on the show. And then it was a tragic. You tell me. You sent me an email about a week after we did the TV show.
It's just a few days after the show, and she was, geared up and excited about introducing me to you, and she had a heart attack and passed away the Sunday after she did the show. But Evelyn was a tour de force, and she was an amazing woman, and she could sing like a bird. Yeah, I met her actually. I had met a homeless person down in the 30th Street Station, and he was living at my house for a while, and he knew Evelyn, and that was how I met her back in about 1994. And ever since then, we've been friends close to pushing 20 years now.
Yeah, she sang also "I'll Never Walk Alone." I mean, really, she sang that song on my show.
The night
we have a tape of it, and I like to put that together sometime. If you what you do in your production, you can maybe use part of what she sang in the interview. Because she just left. I met her at Sinorama, okay, and I was in about a half hour. The next day, I met her up here, and then I was only with her and she left such an impression with me. It's unbelievable,
She will always did that.
She reminded me a little bit about my mom, the way she talked, and just the way she came in with that beautiful. When I said it was a St. Patrick's, she had a green silk dress on. Oh man, it's really something,
She came by my house the night before your show and said, I have to learn these songs by tomorrow. And we had When I Walk Alone, and My Name is McNamara, and I'm playing 14 different versions of it.
Yeah. All right, tell me more about, you did another production here. It calls, let me see, what's my glasses here? It's called White Men Can't Rap. Now, tell me about that.
White Men Can't Rap.
That's singing, right?
Rap, singing, it's a fine line at times, but yeah, it's some form of the musical arts there. And just as in White Men Can't Jump, it is not necessarily a declaration, but it's something that the question of whether or not white men can rap or not is answered in the movie. And shot it in 2004. It's a Naked Gun style comedy, sort of like Scary Movie, and we've got a couple guys from the NFL, Corral Buckhalter from the Philadelphia Eagles, Brian Scott, who's still playing with the Buffalo Bills, is in it.
Oh yeah.
He plays the drummer in the band, and we've got a local guy from the Bloodhound Gang, Evil Jared, the bass player from that band, and then a couple movie stars named John Canada Terrell from Spike Lee's She's Gotta Have It, and the 5 Heartbeats, and then Clifton Powell, who was in a ton of movies.
You work with entertainment too, a lot of sports. I see sports and different entertainment, different people.
Different projects to call for. Yeah, we also did a TV talk show called Tough Sports. That was a fantasy football information show.
And how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing it for 25 years. I ran a video studio at General Electric. And then I went out on my own and started doing my own productions.
Oh, and where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Syracuse, New York, and then
Syracuse.
Moved to Massachusetts.
Oh, up there, cold. That's where you get all that snow up there.
Yeah. I used to live in the tunnels around my house where my dad couldn't find me when it was time for dinner. But I ended up at Ursinus College and stuck around.
All right. Now, what your productions are different than other documentary and stuff. What is the difference between what you do and some of the other production companies?
Well, the corporate videos, I like to think that, where I like to really deliver value is that you're going to see some return on investment. And there's a clip here from a project I did for General Electric that you might want to roll in the background here.
You want to let people know what you do as far as this clip? Okay, let's go to that clip, okay?
Well, you can even let it roll. And like as you see it visually, the interesting story with this project is GE came to me and they said, hey, let's do something where we'll have 5 guys in a business meeting, and we'll talk about our vision for the future. So it would have been 5 guys sitting around the table just like we are. Well, I said, well, if you want to talk about the future, let's make it really interesting. We put the meeting 5 years in the future and did it CSI style, like Tom Cruise in Minority Report, where everybody is virtual. And the best part of it was, a week after the meeting, he went on a sales call where he thought he was going to get thrown out by his client. He showed him the video, and they bought 80 new units, which paid for the entire video.
Great.
And that's, you know, that's where I think we really offer value.
Let's go to the clip, okay? Good.
Good morning, Your Eminence.
Your Eminence, is it? That's a bit of a lofty title when addressing a CEO. Wouldn't you say, Mary?
Not when speaking to the most profitable CEO in the trucking business, but for today's annual review, we'll keep it at Jake.
Thank you, Mary. Let's bring in the executive team and see how you guys made me look good this year.
Good morning, gentlemen. Being that this is the 5-year anniversary of the very wise KG Trucking Partnership, Jake has asked me to announce that we've cleaned out the warehouse and we're having a fire sale on these trucking industry dinosaurs. Remember when we used to look for trailers in the yards with these?
I thought we sold them on eBay back in 2005.
Actually, Juan, 2005 was the year Veriwise's trailer tracking capability detected its first stolen KG vehicle, leaving Washington State and crossing the geofence into Idaho. Since then, we've recovered 72 trailers during attempted theft. How's that add up, Bob?
At an average of $20,000 per trailer, that is $1.4 million in savings thanks to the asset location function.
That's not bad when you consider
But that's just the tip of the iceberg to the equipment manager. Since we implemented the RFID tags on all cargo being shipped, I can track exactly how many dishwashers were in the truck when it left a location, where they are now, and a host of other things right from my desk.
Juan, congratulations to all of you in EHS for the Maintenance Highway Safety Award.
Thanks, Mary, but we couldn't have done it without Veriwise. Looking next to you, I can see tires 4 and 8 are low on rig 411. That type of data can save us a blowout this week and keep a driver on the road a few extra hours. And the hubometer on unit 2622 indicates it's time for a maintenance check.
Okay, that was good. Okay, now, you covered it like they say, covered it like the dew. Okay, now, you're working on another project that's very interesting, and I'm going to be a little concerned. We're going to go back and forth on this, you know. What's this project you're working on about the prisons and stuff like that?
Well, there's an innocent kid in jail up in Huntington, Pennsylvania. He's from Pittsburgh area. He happens to be the nephew of Evelyn Thomas, who we mentioned earlier in the show.
What's he do?
Well, he lives in jail. He was a high school kid when he got put in jail.
What's he going to jail for?
First-degree murder, and he's got life without parole. And, you know, I have no problem with people being put in jail when the evidence supports they should be there, but in this case, the evidence says, you know, he claimed that he shot this kid 5 times in the chest, and the coroner says he was shot 5 times in the back. Why was that put into evidence?
Well, now, if they come up with evidence like that, then somebody goofed up. You know?
And, you know, there were no eyewitnesses called at trial. I found 3 eyewitnesses.
And the guy's still in jail?
Yes.
And you're working on that?
Yes, I've been working on it for about 13 years.
I mean, any lawyer with any kind of degree would be able to look at the evidence and say, you know, if there's somebody shot in the back, it's not self-defense, you know.
And if the lawyer had looked at the evidence at trial, it might have been a little different. As I said, there were 3 eyewitnesses that were mentioned in police reports. Why didn't he call the eyewitnesses? Because they've all testified in appeals that he didn't do it.
Well, and he's still in jail. So what's going on to get him out, or who's?
Well, there's a lawyer.
You have somebody?
We filed a federal habeas corpus a few weeks ago. The Innocence Project is on board. The Innocence Institute of Pennsylvania is on board with it. So there's a lot of support, and it's growing at this point.
The U.S. criminal justice system is designed to ensure that everyone receives equal protection under the law. Unfortunately, however, well-intended, the system is only as good as the people who serve in it. At times, this limitation of the system means that some people's civil liberties really are not always protected. And when that system fails, due to shoddy police work or ineffective legal counsel, the most common victims are the poor and disenfranchised citizens of our urban centers. On December 7, 1996, a young man was senselessly murdered in Homewood, Pennsylvania. In exchange for special consideration on charges he was facing, this young man, Rashid, told police that he saw Deron Cox commit the crime. Well, the problem is that's not what anybody else saw. Now, according to all three of the other eyewitnesses, Rashid was not even present when the shooting occurred. All three also stated that Deron Cox was not the gunman. This man also stated that he was with Rashid at the time that the shooting occurred. Based on testimony from these and other witnesses, we've reenacted what actually happened that night.
Yeah, soldier. Yeah, soldier. Yo, man, the weed, the guns, the drugs, dog, they was all his, man. I'm not no snitch.
Dog, all I'm saying is that both of y'all got locked up that night for a gun and a coat. And you at home right now, so you tell me what's going on.
Yeah, that shit's crazy. That shit don't fly. You's a rat.
Man, y'all niggas gotta listen to me, man.
Let me hit the blunt.
Yeah, soldier.
Girl, is we going to the club or what? What's that? Boy, don't nobody need to drink after you. Bye. You go, girl. I love you.
Yeah, that shit crazy, man. That shit don't fly. You's a
Man,
rat.
y'all got to listen to me, man.
Let me hit
Straight
the
up.
blunt,
And Hoover, give me that L, man. Get up out of here, dog. Man, look at that shit, man. Let's get the weed and bounce, bro.
Yeah, you right, you right.
Yo, what was that?
Yo, bitch, be rolling. This is my jam, yo. That's crazy, dog. I'm about to say that shit, dog. It's crazy. It's hard to imagine. Picture me rolling.
Friends that got me under surveillance. I swear somebody can tell them. No, there's no being so. But I ain't the one.
Yo, I'm telling
Yo, B just got shot. It just came out of nowhere. They started shooting shots. They got him in the head. He's on the ground bleeding.
This is where the shooting occurred at 7318 Florey Way, and at that time the prosecution's eyewitness was here at 7307 Kelly Street, more than 170 feet away and around the corner.
Benny! Yo, Benny! Yo, man, get up! Get up, man! Who did this? Come on, man! Who did this? Come on, man! Somebody gonna pay for this shit! Yo! I'm gonna pay for this! I'm gonna pay for this, man!
The Pennsylvania Code governing lawyers' professional conduct states, as advocate, a lawyer zealously asserts the client's position under the rules of the adversary system. It is a fundamental obligation of a lawyer to thoroughly investigate a case to build a defense. No reasonable person can suggest that in a trial where eyewitnesses clearly identified in police reports were never interviewed or called to testify, that a legitimate attempt to mount a defense took place. Now, the only thing that was proven at the trial of Deron Cox is that without adequate counsel, a jury was not provided with the evidence needed to render a fair and just verdict. And as a result, a young man has spent more than 10 years of his life in prison. Mr. Cox is currently incarcerated in Huntington State Correctional Facility, where he's working with other inmates to create a youth development program. That program will provide guidance, mentoring, and education to help developing teenagers build stronger foundations for their future. We believe that not only did Deron Cox not receive a fair trial, but that he's wholly innocent of any involvement in this crime. Help us make sure that Deron Cox receives his fair day in court where he can present the extensive body of exculpatory evidence that was not presented at his original trial. Please support the Deron Cox Legal Defense Fund.
Well, then since you're talking, I'm a former police officer, okay, so you're, and I am for the death penalty. I'm for that, okay? All my years as a police officer, I figured that now our courts give every opportunity of appeal and check, you know, before somebody's really found guilty and sent to prison or whatever, the electric chair. I mean, they go through a lot, you know, have every opportunity to get all the evidence out. Now, what you're telling me, I mean, that's really, in Italian, I'd say stonale. That's really bad police work, bad district attorney's office. But I'd have to, more than that, I don't know. I want to know more about that case, you know. But I guess you're not for the death penalty.
Well, I can't favor it. I mean, there's certainly instances where I hear about the behavior of an
Certain
individual.
cases, you think they should scorch them.
My gut reaction would probably be like, that person deserves the death penalty. But, you know, there have been instances where innocent people have been fried. And in that, you know, in that type of, with that reality, you know, it's hard for me to support as a general rule.
Well, you know, one of my good friend, back and he says, who was Frank Rizzo, he says, you know, I spent many years, you know, as a policeman, mayor, and all. He says, and after so many years, you get mellow. You know, I think they ought to get rid of the electric chair. In the meantime, he was working for the gas company. He says, I think they ought to give him the gas, you know. So then the other guy come up with, he says, oh, no, he says, I'm getting a little mellow too. I don't think they should have the electric chair. He says they should use a bench, get 6 at a time. But no, I mean, that's a little humor to it. But the point is, it's getting to be, you know, now with all this terrorists and all that stuff, you know, where they're killing not one, they're killing hundreds at a time. So I think you got to keep that electric chair, you know, keep it plugged in.
Well, the one thing you mentioned was that there's so many appeals that it's almost a waste of time, because everybody who gets the electric chair anyway, the appeals process, it never happens.
Yeah.
You know, Mumia is a perfect example.
They made some bad mistakes, but you know, it's part of the game, you know.
Right, I'm just saying the courts are such a mess with the whole execution process that it, you know, it's a waste of the court's time.
So what's your intentions are to do with this?
My intention is to get this kid out of jail and see some justice
How old is
done.
he?
He's now 32, 33 years old.
32. How old when he went in?
He was 18.
18.
And he was on his way. He was going to college the next year. And yeah, the mistake he made was he was a straight A student in school, but he also hung out with these gangsters. So when this thing went down, they laid it on him rather than.
Well, and I guess they had the witnesses against him.
No,
or
not
had witnesses that are for him.
Well, they have a witness that said the guy got shot in the chest when the coroner says he got shot in the back. And they put this in front of the jury, but the jury...
Shot in the back, you know, it's almost like this case in Florida where, you know, they said, well, he got shot right out. In the meantime, the guy's damaged in the head. He said he was bouncing his head there. So you have to wait until all the evidence is out there before you start jumping to conclusions, you know. That's most important. I mean, I put myself, if somebody accuses me of something, I want to come out with all the facts. You know? So that's the way I feel about it. And when all the facts are out, go with it. Right. Now, what do you got in the front burner right now, other than that?
Front burner, well, that's pretty hot and active. But mostly, you know, I'm doing a lot of corporate videos right now. And then
tell me something about the corporate videos. Who?
Well, General Electric's one of my clients. I work with GlaxoSmithKline, the security advisors right here in here in Norristown,
right.
And a top-notch group that does security for homes and schools. And you know, I go in, I help them develop their marketing pieces and their, you know, for fundraising or for you know, training purposes, whatever they're really looking for. I do a lot of corporate videos.
And just sort of explain what they're doing and how they can help.
Basically, yeah, get their key messages, explain what it is their company's about, and then finding a creative way to package it. I mean, anyone could set up a camera and just, you know, let it roll and put somebody on camera, but to really tell a story and make it interesting, especially nowadays where everything's on YouTube, the demand to really distinguish yourself and get an interesting video out there to get your message out, to get people to go and look at it, you can't just have a talking head. You really have to do something interesting.
How about theater? You ever get involved with theater?
Going back quite a few years, you know, high school and college, but I'm not overly active in it now. I'd like to get back to it.
Well, do you think that would be a good area? Is show business coming back or what?
I don't think show business has gone anywhere. There's a colleague of mine I mentioned earlier, John Canada Terrell from Spike Lee's movies, and we're putting together a one-man show that we hope to take on the road next year. So
what's that have to do with?
It's called Meditations of a Dangerous Fool, and John is a noted actor from stage in New York for quite a few years and from his movie career. And it's basically talking about the history with a slightly different perspective. Like history, Napoleon said that the winners write history, and there's another perspective. I don't think that the Native American Indians would have given the same story of what happened as maybe the government version, and you know, the slaves' version of what happened doesn't exactly match it with the government's version.
Are you telling me that sometime history gets changed around a little bit?
It gets written by the victors, that's for sure.
Yeah. You know, I never heard that. You know, in other words, little abbreviations and additions and subtractions and omissions, right?
Little nuances here and there, yes.
Well, now your company, right? Mm-hmm. Do you travel? Do you travel?
Travel a lot, doing a lot of you know, national sales meetings and stuff like that. So those corporate gigs. We've got a studio up here on Germantown Pike at 644 Lafayette Hill Studios. So we do a lot of shooting in house there too, and then you know, shooting on.
Is that where you work out of?
Yeah, there I have an office in King of Prussia and then a studio in Lafayette Hill.
What do you mean you have a studio? You do stuff in there?
It's got a full green screen and you know, loads of cameras and all the toys of the trade.
Then go over there and take a look at it. Invite me over there?
By all means. Dave Gordon from the Security Advisors. We shot with him over there.
Okay, good.
Love to take you over, sure. A little bit like, you know, this place here, actually.
Just like over here, right? Oh, okay. I didn't know that, you know. See, I'm learning. That's why this is an educational program.
Exactly.
Show,
educational for all of us.
And how about growing up? You were growing up
in
Syracuse. What did you do when you were growing up? What got you involved in this? I
believed I was going to play shortstop for the Yankees. And
you what?
I was going to play shortstop for the Yankees, but like Billy Crystal, it didn't quite work out that way. And I actually didn't become as big a comedian as Billy. Yeah, growing up in Syracuse, I was, you know, going to be a baseball player, and you know.
But you took a lot of interest in this Afro-American baseball team.
Yeah.
But I never heard of, you know, this Fleet Walker.
Well, that's the interesting part about it. I grew up, I knew a lot about Babe Ruth and Joe DiMaggio, and Mickey Mantle was my hero. I still have his poster on my wall, but I read a book about Jackie Robinson in 1990, and I turned to my dad and I said, Dad, you never told me about the Negro Leagues. What is, how could you?
Oh, yeah.
It's like this omitted part of history. Yeah. And then I just started doing research, and I went and I interviewed about, you know, I have about 20 hours of interviews with about 30 different guys from the Negro Leagues, and they were great. Hank Aaron played in the Negro Leagues before he went to the majors.
Who?
Hank Aaron.
Oh, yeah?
The all-time non-steroid home run leader of the majors.
I think Norristown had the Colored Elks, Norristown, and then had the Moose, the Elks, baseball team, Holy Savior, LAM. Had different leagues here in Norristown.
Like the Sandlot semi-pro level?
Yeah, semi-pro, yeah. They played at Roosevelt Field.
Yeah, that's what I read about.
And then the Roosevelt Field, and then if you hit, a left-hander was up there, hit it, and that field, that right field was very close. And if it went over the fence and break a window in the neighbor over there, it would be a double. And then they had a line. If it was past that, then it would be a home run, see? But that's how they converted. But they were City League. It was great. The Moose, the Elks, the Holy Savior, LAM, Eagles, Orioles. They had great, you know, Central Club. And they all had baseball teams. Really, really good, you know.
So you got the double. Who paid for the window?
You know, that's a good question. I have to... You know, I'm 88 years old. I don't know many guys around that I can call up and say, do you remember that guy? I don't I know. The guy's in a nursing home or he's in heaven.
Another research project.
So I can't, too many guys. Then most of the people that talk to haven't lived in Norristown for a long period of time. So that becomes a little bit of a problem, you know. So now, Do you have anybody work with you, or what? How do you work this?
I have a couple editors in-house, and then a lot of subcontractors that we use too, and you know, depending on what the project is. I mean, in the example of the movie, I had 50 people working for me for 2 months, but it's kind of like, unlike a normal business where you build and you hire one person, 6 months later another, and 5 years later you got 15 people. You make a movie, suddenly it's like a pop-up tent. You put the whole business together, you all work together for 2 or 3 months. It's all over. Suddenly everybody goes home, and you're left there with 50 hours of film and a lot of editing to do.
Well, now, if somebody comes to you and says, I want to do something, a documentary or something, what do you do?
Well, at first I sit down, learn about their story and what it is. There's a story that they're looking to tell, and learn about their story, learn about what it is that the message that they want to tell in the story.
Right.
And I mean, documentary normally, I mean, as you start to research, the story becomes apparent to you and it evolves. And if it involves interviewing people, for instance, when I did the Negro League interviews, the story dictated to me where it was going to go. I learned so much along the way, and it was such a labor of love that it was just great.
Yeah, once you get hooked on it, right?
Yeah, so you first find out what it is they'd like to do, and then just like any client really, you have to start having realistic budget discussions and say, all right, well, any project can be A, B, or C, and you can get your message out with a small budget, or you can really blow it out and do something much bigger. But you have to consider those things. The quality is definitely going to be affected, the production values.
When it hit the ball, I'd never heard that sound before in my life. I said, my lands, who is that? They said, that's Babe Ruth. Now, I didn't hear the sound again. I'm in Washington, D.C., and we're playing the Homestead Grave. I heard that sound again, and that was Josh Gibson. Now, I'm in Kansas City. This is a long time later. And I heard this sound. And when I heard that sound, I stopped in my tracks. I hadn't heard it since I heard Josh, or heard Ruth hit it. And you know who was hitting? Bo Jackson. They said, that's Bo. That's Bo. That's Bo. That's Bo. I said, I got to meet him.
Cleveland got Larry Doby, Brooklyn's got Jackie Robinson. Now the pitcher got scared, let Jackie walk. He stole second and third and come home on a walk. Hooray, hooray, the time has really come.
Now that clip you showed here today, tell me a little bit more about that.
The clip from Closed Doors, the integration of baseball. It was, well, that was just the opening sequence. And there was a small clip, an interview there with Hank Aaron, and Hank played for the Indianapolis Clowns. And he was with them for about 3 months, and they had a great reputation for clowning around. Spec Bebop and Goose Tatum, who played for the Harlem Globetrotters, played with the Clowns for a while. And so that little clip there was just Hank talking about his experience going from the Negro Leagues to the major leagues. And a lot of people don't realize he only played there. Now by 1952 or 3, the Negro Leagues were starting to fold up as more guys were going into the minor leagues instead of going to the Negro Leagues and then to the major leagues. So he was towards the end of the last Negro League players that transitioned into the majors.
And he went from that league right on to, I wonder, that was tough. When you had a guy with a lot of talent trying to get him into something where they wouldn't take black, that was tough. Well, who was it, Ricky from the Dodgers?
Branch Rickey.
Was he the one that, along with, how about DeRocha? Wasn't he the first one that brought him in? DeRocha was with, when he come on.
DeRocha was in the mix there somewhat. He was not managing, I don't believe, at the time that Branch Rickey brought, and the manager of the Dodgers' name escapes me, but I believe there was just a play done in Norristown, a one-man show about Branch Rickey, as a matter of fact. And but Branch was a pioneer. I mean, he was, it's an interesting analysis of, you know, was he about integration or was he about the money? As some of the guys I talked to said, Branch Rickey was all about the money. He heard the turnstiles turning and he knew that letting blacks in, those people were going to come to the games, and they certainly did. Yet you can't deny that it was a very pioneering, I mean, he was up against a lot of pressure.
And then our local Tommy Lasorda, you know, worked, I think he played for Rickey. Didn't he?
Yeah, he was with the Dodgers back then, and he probably he knew a lot of those.
I was born in Brooklyn, but I never saw him play. No, they moved to Norristown when I was only 5, so I never, I never saw him. Ebbets Field, you know, I've been at Yankee Stadium, not to see a baseball game. I went there to see boxing. You know.
Who'd you see?
Yeah.
Who'd you see?
I saw Sugar Ray Robinson, and then I saw Carmen Basilio. I saw Sandy Sadler fight Willie Pep. You know, and then Amelia Griffith. He fought an Italian guy from Italy. I can't think of his name, but that was great. You know, that Yankee Stadium they turned into the old Yankee Stadium, not the new one. You know,
those were legendary matches then. Yeah, that was that would have been great to see some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So, but back then, that's when the Dodgers, they used to ride the trolleys and ride the subways with the fans. They were living in the neighborhoods. They weren't making $1 million a year.
Right. It's almost like in Norristown. We were policemen. We had to live in Norristown, 3 square miles.
Yeah.
You know, now one lives over here, one lives over there. You know, nobody lives in Norristown. You know,
that rule's not in effect anymore.
But now you don't have to live in Norristown. Before we had to live there. We were, I guess, around 60 police officers, and so, like I say, they lived here, we worshipped here, we shopped here, kids went to school here. You know, it was a whole different ball game. You know,
it was more community. Yeah.
So it's a whole different thing on law enforcement. You know, but I'm glad that you're involved not only in helping people and creating with this here corporate. And also, you're interested in I would say law enforcement, but justice, I guess you would call it, right?
Certainly.
Justice.
That's what it comes down to, yeah.
And you know, if that's what you're telling me, that the guy gets shot in the back, I mean, that doesn't even make sense. The guy should be in jail. You know, I think the guy should be in jail is sitting there, if that's the story.
Hank, we're on board together on that one. There's no question about it.
I'll have you back when you find out how that works out. You know. Now tell me, you're traveling. Where are some of the cities that you've did some work out of?
Well, it's funny you mention Seoul, South Korea was a great adventure. 1988, I went to Seoul and was the executive producer on the first Korean album produced by an American producer. I took a guy named David Ivory over with me, and he's gone on to become a big hip-hop producer here in Philadelphia. But we went over there.
What's his name?
His name's David Ivory, and he's about 5 miles up the road. And but at the time, there was a guy here named Young Lee, and he was here from Korea. He was like the #2 pop singer in Korea at the time. And what had happened was he had gotten someone pregnant over there. Well, I'm not sure how America takes it. They probably put you on the cover of Rolling Stone, but over there it was a disgrace. So Young decided to take off because he was getting abused in the papers, and he moved to America and married somebody here. Could have gone anywhere, but he chose Temple. And so I met him, and he went back, did a funeral, went back for his father's funeral and found out they don't hate me here, decided to stage a comeback in Korea. I hooked up with him, took a producer with me, and we spent a month producing his album over there. He was like the Korean Julio Iglesias.
What'd you do with the film? Still have it?
I have 17 hours of footage somewhere in my basement of this ridiculous adventure.
That's the way the movie producer like me. I got the tapes. I'm doing this show for 23 years, and I got tapes. Oh my God! Now the disc is a lot easier, but I have a lot of closets and files with all the big tapes. You know.
Have you transferred them down to the small?
I'll have to get them. I don't have a machine to do that.
That's a project in itself. Yeah.
And I have a couple. In fact, I have it when I took. I was up at Grossinger's. When Rocky Marciano was training for the Archie Moore fight, and I had pictures. I had this camera, and I was taking pictures. Boy, and here, after about maybe 15 minutes or so, the thing was running. I thought it was running, but it wasn't moving, so I didn't have.
Oh, you didn't get it.
I thought I had when I got there. Only had like 10 minutes of it. You know,
it was a film camera.
Yeah, but I do it. I have a guy in England, Cameron, that is doing a documentary on Rocky Marciano, and he asked me to send some pictures, and so he's got me included with it. And also another guy doing a documentary on I refereed a fight in 1976, I think it was, between Boogaloo Watts and Hagler, the middleweight. And so now, if you look at on Spectrum Fights on your computer, it comes up. It'll show the fight, me refereeing a fight down in Philadelphia, and so he's doing a documentary with Boogaloo Watts, you know. So actually, hey, listen, it's very interesting. For a half hour we've been talking here, doing what you're doing. You're a very interesting person, and I wish you a lot of luck. And I want you to assist in some way. Anytime they call me up, hey, Cisco, I think I can help you, or I can help you, you know.
Right.
And same thing here. We have a theater with John Doyle. We have a lot of people interested, and we're trying to do a lot of production, different things in Norristown. So if anything you can do to help Norristown, I'm your man. I'm the ambassador, okay?
We know
and
that.
if you get any parking tickets in Norristown, mention my name, pay the fine. Okay, listen, thanks a lot. So,
Thank you, Hank.
ladies and gentlemen, thanks a lot for allowing us to come into your living room or dining room or kitchen, wherever you're at. And so here we are.
Salud.
Rick Morris, Allah salud. So we meet again. Keep bobbing and weaving, and may God bless each and every one of you. Thank you.
Who got the pizza?